So today, friends, I wanted to talk about starting Gomphrena from seed. Now, some people claim that Gomphrena doesn't germinate well for them. So I'm going to give it a whirl, and I'm going to give it a little bit of a boost the only way I know how. So let's get rolling on starting Gomphrena from seed. Yeah, the first thing I want to share with you is Organic Rev. This is a growth stimulant, and I'm going to soak the seeds of the Gomphrena with this. I'm going to do it for about 48 hours before I go ahead and sow them into the soil. Now, Gomphrena, I do not winter sow. I don't winter sow it because many times the seeds rot before it actually germinates, because Gomphrena, number one, does not need cold stratification whatsoever, and it likes warm temperatures to get going. In fact, you could direct sow this in your garden after your last frost and the soil has warmed up. But as I said, I'm going to start them earlier because I have my greenhouse. I can actually keep them in until I can put them out in the garden. But I'm going to sow them and put them inside on my light racks that I do have so that they will be warm to get going, and that'll give them the best chance of germination. All right, I'm not going to need my soil today because all we're going to do is start the seeds. So to do that, I have coffee filters. I like these better than paper towels because they're more tightly woven. If something should sprout while they are still in these, then the root is less likely to intertwine with the fibers. That can be tricky if you have a paper towel. They tend to do that, at least they have for me. And then, pulling it loose could tear the root off or damage it in some way. So I like these. It has a less tendency to do that. Now, if that happens, there is a fix, and you just cut it out. It's just fiddly when it's wet. Okay, so first of all, I'm gonna make up some water with this. I don't measure, but I'm gonna put maybe an ounce in this container. And that looks like it may be a little bit more than a quart of a container. Let's see. And I'm gonna put the water in here. Now, I'm not going to use all of this to dampen these. I'm just going to put a little bit in my tray. Can you see down here? Yeah. So this is just a lid to one of those little Sterilite boxes, and it's big enough to do this job. It's just something I had handy out here. So I'm moistening this, and then I'm going to lay it on. Let me dust this off. My table top. Now I might need to scoot you back so you can see, or scoot the camera down a little bit. Yeah, right here. So I'm going to pull this out of the Organic Rev water. Like I said, this is humic acids and other beneficials that will only help in the germination process. Now the first one, I got these from Baker Creek Seeds. They had the mix I wanted, the colors I wanted. I wanted this lavender, and this is the Globosa Mixed. So let me put on my glasses. So this one says it's a petite amaranth relative. Scads of thimble-shaped papery flower heads 1 inch across in white, pink, and rosy reds. So yeah, I wanted those colors. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to soak a good portion. Look what I have. I would say maybe half in here, on here. And I'm just going to put it on this paper coffee filter it's wet. It's not just damp, it is wet. So I'm going to put them on here, not too close together, just in case they sprout. I doubt it. They take a little while to sprout. And you're only going to soak them for 48 hours. You could do this in water, but I find it kind of fiddly to strain them out. So this kind of keeps them, doable or manageable to handle. So there, I have them sprinkled on there. I did it on half of the coffee filter. So now I'm going to fold over the other half, and I'm going to press this together very firmly so that there's good contact and the coffee filter is kind of wrapping around each seed, making sure that moisture is there. Now I am not going to put this in a refrigerator or anything. As I said, Gomphrena likes it warm. So to get it started, you want to put it in a warm place. Now you could put it on top of your refrigerator. You could put it, like I'll just put it on my light rack, so that's pretty warm in there. So I have a sandwich bag, and I'm going to put this one in here. So I should have marked them. I should have gotten 2 sandwich bags. In fact, I'll go ahead and do the lavender one. This is the mix. I'll do the lavender one, and I'll just put it in a different bag because I don't want to get them mixed up. I want to know which one is which. So unless I probably could put a tear in the other one, and then I'll know the difference. Because there's no way I'm marking it, the ink would run. All right, so now I'm going to do a second one for the lavender. Now in here, I still have half or more. I don't know how many seeds exactly are in here, but we will come back and we will sow these once they've soaked for 48 hours. So that will be coming up. Okay, I'm not cutting my head off, I'm just checking. All right. Now some people have had success with winter sowing. I really haven't. So that's why I'm going to go ahead and do it this way. If you want to try to winter sow them in the milk jugs or whatever jugs you like to use or containers, go right ahead and let me know how that works for you. All right, let me dry my hands. I don't want to touch my seed packet wet. That popping noise is my floor. I could not figure out what that sound was in one of my videos, so I'm going to try to not move my feet too much. That could be annoying. All right, there's not as many in here of the pure lavender as there was of the mix. So should I, yeah, I'll go ahead. Go for it, Pam. I can always buy more. Sometimes I get stingy with seeds, and it's totally pointless because a lot of times seeds sit in storage, and fresh seeds are always better seeds when it comes to germination. And since Gomphrena has a bad reputation of not germinating well, then it is just really wise to sow as many as you can. Now, when I lived in the valley, San Joaquin Valley, I direct sowed them, and I had beautiful germination. So, but it gets very hot there early. Okay, so I got that all pressed. Now, let's see what I'm going to do. I'm going to tear the top. That's just for identification. So I'm going to put it in here with this one, and I will go ahead, and these will go on my light rack for 48 hours. This is Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So Sunday or Monday, probably Sunday because Monday we've got a busy day. And I will come back and we will sow these. I'm sorry for the popping floor. We will sow these in probably, I have found great success in sowing in these egg cartons. I've got drainage poked in this. Now the success comes, I have realized, from they do not stay too wet. They may dry out quicker, and that's a bonus. And if you're staying on top of things, which you usually do, I check my things like this every day, and you can really notice if they're getting dry. Now, the fact that many of the bigger containers hold more moisture, that can lead to problems. So having this size is perfect. I went to a nursery and they were starting seeds, and they had something similar to this, but in smaller sizes. It wasn't an actual egg carton, but it was a seed starting tray, and they were very small. And it was what they started, and it was as big around each cell as my finger, and that was it. They dry out, not too much, but they do not stay too moist, and that's, as I said, is where problems occur. So I will see you on Sunday when we will put these up. I don't have enough of these. Well, I'm just going to have to sow some in other containers. So we will do that. So this is Sunday, 2 days later from when we put these to soak. They've been in on my light rack just because that's where I would know where they would be, and it's a little bit warmer. Now these are the Gomphrena seeds. I did 2 different ones, and I mean different ones because one was all lavender and the other one was a mix, which the mix could contain the same as the lavender, but because it was the same shades. So the one that was just the regular lavender, I put a cut in. And then the other one is the mix. Now these have been, as I said, soaking in this. Now I soaked the coffee filter in a mix of water and this organic Rev, which is a root stimulant to help with the germination. And first, before I fill up my container, I decided I'd go ahead and do a larger container. And this is just a recycled. This looks like it had, this had Roma tomatoes in it from Costco. It already had the holes in it, so it's perfect. Has the lid that has vent holes, perfect. But I wanted to get my potting soil ready. Now I use regular potting soil. I have a video where I compared seed starting mix and potting soil. And if you're interested in the results, I'll link that in the description below. You can see, but I'm starting with the potting soil that I like to use. It's an organic potting soil, but it has a lot of wood bits in it. So I'm gonna go ahead and sieve it. I got this from Amazon. I'll link to it. It's the one that is, I think it says 1/4 inch mesh on it. So you really can filter out the big chunks of wood. There is some large chunks of perlite too, which I can pull out, put back in here if I want, or I just put this in my compost bin. There's a container down here that's gonna go out to my compost bin, and that'll all go in there and work just fine. Now I do that a little bit because I'd already dumped the potting soil in here. A lot of times I'll scoop it from the potting soil bag, put it on here, and do it that way. Big chunks. I don't get too worried about some being left in there. And I don't always sieve it, so there's that. Then I'm gonna add a little bit of perlite to loosen it up a little bit more. Now, depending on the mix, eyeballing it, how much perlite it has, you don't always have to add more. Sometimes it's very loose already. Now, preferably, I would use a compost mixed with the perlite and whatever else I decide to use. This time, I'm gonna use a product that is called Dakota Peat Soil and Plant Enhancer. Now, I learned about this from Journey with Jill. She has a gardening channel. She does lots of vegetables, and she used it for seed starting, and it really improved her results. So I always like to get the best results possible, and this, I'm gonna use some. So she said about 1/3, 2/3 potting mix, whatever mixture you use, and 1/3 of this. So I eyeball it, but if you want to measure it, you do so. So that's about 1/3 of the mix here. Now, when I was doing soil blocking or tried to do it, I was not impressed with the results compared to just bulk sowing in these. But if you like that, they often, as part of the mix, have green sand. I have the green sand, so I'm gonna use it. And so I'll just mix the green sand in to, I think, oops, I missed the box. It's on my floor. Anyways, and that's totally optional. I just have it on hand, and it contains minerals. Let's see, what is it? Can be used throughout the garden. So it just adds a little nutritive layer. But as I said, it's completely optional. A lot of times I don't have it on hand and I don't use it. So there I have a nice mix. I need to redo my DIY potting soil / seed starting mix video because there was some things in there that I no longer use in the one that I have. Now, you see how this, it's very dark. I don't have enough perlite to my mind, so I'm going to add some more. Like I said, I usually eyeball it, so I couldn't tell you exact measurements, and a lot of people will say that you want it to be very light and loose for seedlings. Now, I just want to talk this out. When you plant them out on the ground, your soil's usually loosened and, whatever, but it's soil. And when you plant your seeds, you don't make it lighter there than elsewhere. It's the same as the surrounding soil, and they germinate and do great. I was at a seminar. Anyway, it was talking about how the roots of seeds, seedlings, whatever, if they have to work for it to get through and penetrate the soil, they're stronger, kind of like exercising a muscle. It takes work to build up a muscle and strength, and it's not any different with seedlings. Now, that may be an opinion, but I thought that was interesting, and it makes sense. Because the people that really, really believe in soil blocking being better, you're compressing this soil that you make into a tight block so it holds together when you pull it out of the form. So it's holding together, so it's very dense. So those roots really have to work to fill that in, and they do it just fine. And some people who really are into soil blocking claim that the plants are much stronger in the long run than the ones grown in seed starting mix, other types of seed starting mix. I don't know how true it is because I didn't really care for soil blocking. It was more work than it was worth for the amount of seeds I start. Now, I understand if you start a lot of seeds, and maybe if I'd started with the little one, I had gotten the larger one. If I had the one that was the little tiny squares, maybe I would have liked it better because you can really start a lot of seeds in a small footprint. But yeah, buying those things is very expensive, and having to mix the soil and get it all wet just right and putting it in a flat container to press down and make the little blocks, I'd rather just scoop it in here. I confess to being a completely lazy gardener. So let's fill this with my mixture. So I have the potting soil, perlite, little green sand, and the Dakota peat in here. One of these days, I should run a test and do one with the Dakota peat and one without. Now, Journey with Jill, she did, and I was impressed with her results. So it was what made me want to get the Dakota peat. Because, as I said, I want all the help I can get. Now, I'm going to fill this up as much as I can. As I shake it, some's going through the holes in the bottom, but I don't mind that. Because I want to give the roots a lot of room to grow. That way I don't have to pot them up as soon as I would if it was shallower. So I'm leveling it out. And then I'm going to set it in the container that I will fill with water for it to absorb. I do not pre-moisten my mix. A lot of people do. That's totally optional. I have found no benefit in pre-moistening it because when I set this into the container of water, it will absorb it up and evenly moisten all of the soil. When you pour it on top, you don't always know if it's evenly moist or not, but when it absorbs it at its own rate, then you know it is evenly moist. That's exactly how I did these. These are snapdragons in this egg carton. I have found the egg cartons work very, very well. This, I have it sitting here so I can remember to take it in the house and put it under the light. The lights I have on my light rack, and it stays warmer. During the day, it gets very warm in here in the greenhouse, but in the night, we've been getting very cold temperatures, and it gets quite cold in here. So to get the seeds started, even the snapdragons, I want to put them inside my light rack. Now, snapdragons, they're a cool weather plant, so they will come up. I come up in cooler temperatures, usually for most people, but I want a little bit of head start with them. Last year, I started them outside with my no transplant winter sowing in a container, and they did grow. They did beautifully in doing it that way, but they were much later because it takes so long for us to warm up. So even though we are having a relatively mild January, where a lot of you are freezing, I'm so sorry, we take a long time to get warm in the spring. So it'll be like the end of May before we really warm up. Now I have the benefit now of this big greenhouse that I can start things in the house and then bring them out here to acclimate, and it will protect them enough. And that's what I'll do with the snapdragons. I'll get them going. Okay, I'm going to point you down a little bit more, or maybe I should just trade places and show you what I do. Okay, let me point the camera down so you can really see what's going on. Okay, so here's the soil, and here is the Gomphrena. Now I am going to cut it down the middle. What I mean by cut it down the middle is I'm going to put a divider in, just a little thing that divides it. So one side will be the mix, and the other side will be the plain lavender. I should say all lavender. Okay, so this has been in. I already see some germinated in there. Crazy. Okay, let me get this apart, and then I'll have to carefully remove. I think that's what that is. Through the. Yep, look at that. Insane. This has only been 48 hours. It is a good thing. I was so tired today, I thought, oh, I'm not going to wait till tomorrow. But we're busy tomorrow. But look, they've already germinated, many of them. So, yeah. Now, Gomphrena have a very, a reputation for not germinating well, not getting a high germination rate. Earlier I said they have an 80%. No, that's wrong. 80% don't, so a 20% germination rate. And I was trying to improve that with growing them like this. And so that was the plan. Okay, I'm first going for the ones that germinated since I already know they're gonna grow. Now I'm not being too terribly careful because they don't mind being divided out once I have to do that. So I'm just gently with my fingernails. I could get like tweezers or something, but my fingernails do fine. But if you don't have fingernails to do it with, feel free to get some tweezers. I'm trying to do it without breaking any of the little sprouts. Now, if I would have left this in here much longer, they could have intertwined into the fibers of the coffee filter. And that's not really something I wanted. So let's see, let's just go ahead and put the rest of these out in here as best as we can. I wonder if the other ones, also this one's got a little sprout on it. Now half of me is tempted to fold this back up and see if more germinate. But sometimes if you leave them onto a moisture like this too long, they end up rotting rather than sprouting. So I might need to use the whole thing because there's a lot in here. Yeah, I have another container, so let's just kind of brush them down. I am so lazy and I'm not meticulous. So if you don't have a patient bone in your body, you could still be successful because I am. So hopefully this isn't too tedious for you. Just watching me pick these off of here. I'm going to pull this up. I forgot how many I put on here, and I did a lot because, as I said, they have a reputation for not germinating well. These ones I got from Baker's Seeds. Let me see, where's the Baker Creek Seeds, I mean. I knew I was missing a word. Whoops. We'll see how many we get. Okay, I think I got them all off here. But that really was a good start, wasn't it? I was surprised. Okay, now the other one, it looks like it has some sprouting in it too. But first we're going to cover this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to sift a little bit over them. And then I'll press it all in. So I'll just sift some soil over it. And it looks like I got them all covered. And then I'll use another flat surface. That's flat enough. And I'll just firm it in. You want good contact between the soil and the seeds. And there we have it. Now I can brush this down in here so it's not clogging up the hinge. Okay, just brushing that off. Close it up. Stir like the container to sit it in, but when I put the water in it, there's going to be enough in it for it to absorb up. So I'm going to go ahead and give it a boost with the Organic Rev. This is the same product that I used to soak the paper. So I'm just going to put a splash in this container and fill it with water. Now, hopefully this water, this is rainwater that I have here. And it might have some ice chunks in it yet. It's not the end of the world. I will take this in to put it on the light rack because Gomphrena like it warm. That's why I don't bother winter sowing it. You get much better, I get much better results. I mean, others may have success with winter sowing, but I haven't had great success with that. So I want to give it as the best advantage possible. So it's floating right now. I will let this soak and absorb all the way up, and it'll get all moist like the egg carton did. So I'm going to move that out of the way. Now, I'm going to point you up. So I'm going to do the next one, but I'm not going to do it close up because it's exactly the same. Now I'm going to do the lavender, and I have this container here to do that in. This one had Super Nutrition Organic Girl Super Greens. And I poked holes in the bottom with a hot skewer. Some people use a glue gun or other, soldering iron. But I find like an old knife or whatever heated on my gas stove, and it pokes holes in it just fine. So coming up soon, I have a video I want to do on, do you remember when I grew the GMO purple tomato? Yeah, I had a few questions on that recently, and I wanted to address those. And so that's something that's coming up. I hope you enjoyed planting up our Gomphrena. As I said, I will come back and I will share with you the results. They may all die on me, I don't know. And we will garden chat some more. And please, if you are in the freezing zone right now, I feel for you. I'm sorry. I hope your gardens make it through it. I hope you make it through it. Sounds like it's very dangerous out there. Yeah, a few years ago we had a deep freeze and we got 9 feet of snow, which just about destroyed my other greenhouse. I have a surprise for you. I'm going to take you out right now. I'm going to say goodbye on this video, but I'm going to add on an addendum. So come back for my next video and I'll take you out to see my surprise. Yep, here we go. I went and got me 6 new chickens, and they're settling in just fine.